All right, here we go. Welcome into the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. Chase Senior here with you. Hope all of the faithful is having a fantastic week. On the show today, just want to go through all of the latest 49ers news and rumors with yet another training camp practice in the books. A lot of takeaways from that practice. We'll hit on some Jimmy Garoppolo trade rumors and get to some 49ers injury news, which is actually where we begin. So Jordan Matthews, after practice concluded today from Santa Clara, was seen on crutches. And it turns out the backup tight end, who was having a good training camp up to this point, suffered a torn ACL. He is going to be lost for the year. Was running routes, non-contact injury. Now he's going to be out for the year. The former second-round pick out of Vanderbilt was first a wide receiver to start his NFL career, put up big numbers for the Philadelphia Eagles, and was traded away. And from that point on, really became a journeyman. Only played a couple of games with San Francisco back in 2020. And then last year, made some headlines because he was looking to make the switch from wide receiver to tight end. This is unfortunate for him because he hasn't been a consistent member of an NFL roster over the last couple of years. And outside of George Kittle, you can make the argument that in training camp, he was the 49ers' best tight end, but goes down today with the torn ACL. So now it's probably going to be George Kittle as tight end number one, Charlie Warner, who has yet to practice because of that core injury, and then Ross Dwelly, who has also had a good camp. That will most likely be the tight end room, at least that's what I think it's going to be. Now we shift gears to Jimmy Garoppolo. According to John Lynch, he is cleared to practice with no restrictions. And while San Francisco has been practicing as a team, Garoppolo's been on the side field, partaking in some individual throwing drills, increasing the amount of yards that he's throwing the football, and continues to rehabilitate that shoulder injury. And this is a good sign both for Garoppolo himself as the individual to come off that shoulder operation, but also his trade prospects for San Francisco as they look to trade him to a different team other than the Seattle Seahawks in the NFL. And him being cleared to practice with no restrictions points to the fact that Garoppolo is coming along very nicely in that recovery. I came across this afternoon, and I thought it was pretty interesting. Now, it's Deadspin, right? So take it for what it's worth. But they had this headline in this article that stated, Garoppolo should be on the first flight to Pittsburgh. Now, why it could make sense. You look at some of the teams with cap space in the NFL. Pittsburgh Steelers are up there. They have $14 million in cap space. And I originally had them as a Jimmy Garoppolo trade destination because Ben Roethlisberger retired. They weren't going to move forward with Mason Rudolph. What was their quarterback answer going to be? Were they going to select a quarterback in the draft? They did so. Kenny Pickett in the first round stays in town at Pitt. But they also gave decent money to Mitchell Trubisky. Here's the problem. In Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator's second season as the OC in Pittsburgh, on a roster that's ready to win right now, and for Mike Tomlin, a coach who seemingly makes the playoffs almost every single year and wins at least 9 games per year, Mitchell Trubisky has been bad. And we're not sure if Kenny Pickett is ready to take the reins as a starting quarterback. So if Mitchell Trubisky continues to struggle and the Steelers don't think that Kenny Pickett is coming along nicely and he can be the starter this year as a rookie, maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers could enter the equation in the Jimmy Garoppolo trade sweepstakes. Do you think that Garoppolo to Pittsburgh would work? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Now to some training camp analysis. We're kind of going all around the spectrum here. Brandon Aiyuk. He has continued to start throughout training camp. He's been excellent in team drills and team activities, 7-on-7s as well as 11-on-11s, building up that rapport with quarterback Trey Lance. Also, he's been spectacular and borderline unstoppable in one-on-ones. Team drills, one-on-one drills. He has beaten Charvarius Ward, who's been the clear-cut winner of training camp so far. In case you missed our winners and losers segment, make sure you watch it on the channel. He's also had some contested grabs against Ward and Jimmy Ward. So the two Wards, Brandon Aiyuk has been able to have their number. Today, red zone drills with Trey Lance, caught a touchdown pass, also hooked up and linked up with Nate Sudfeld a couple of times. What Brandon Aiyuk is doing, making a bunch of highlight reel-worthy catches today at practice, he was the best player on the field according to all accounts, and he continues to make strides and play really well. The ability for Brandon Aiyuk is there, just needs to be a little bit more consistent. There is a little bit also of a predicament at the center position for the Niners. Jake Brendel, Daniel Brunskill continuing to split reps with the first team offense. Mostly it's been Brendel, Brunskill filling in from time to time, but he's also been that second string center with Spencer Burford at right guard for the first team and not Daniel Brunskill. And this defensive line for San Francisco is one of the best, most talented, one of the deepest in the NFL. Of course, they're going to have the number of this offensive line that outside of Trent Williams has a bunch of question marks and a couple of guys who are inexperienced and or beat up. If Jake Brendel, though, and Daniel Brunskill continue to struggle, I think there's only one solution for San Francisco. You got to go out and you got to bring in JC Tretter, who over the last several years has been one of the best centers in the National Football League. Good in pass coverage, good in run coverage. Not going to say he's as good as an Alex Mack type of player who was named to the 2010s All-Decade team, and it's certainly a big blow with him retiring, but JC Tretter is at least respectable. And up to this point, Jake Brendel and Daniel Brunskill have not. I'm not going to rule out the possibility of JC Tretter signing with the Niners late in training camp. At this point, he's played so long in the NFL. He's dealt with some injuries. He can conserve his body until we get closer to the regular season. Something, though, to keep an eye on. Still a couple of things to get to. The safety battle, a positive sign with one of the Niners' top draft selections. We'll talk about the running backs as well, Javon Kinlaw, Trey Lance. But first, make sure you subscribe to the channel. This is your home for the best Niners coverage on the entire internet. And with the preseason, regular season right around the corner, lock us in, subscribe to the channel as we've been pushing out videos and sometimes multiple videos every single day. To the safety position, Tarvarius Moore getting some first-team reps alongside Talanoa Hufanga. We know that Jimmy Ward is going to be the other safety, but Moore coming off that torn Achilles, former third-round pick, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, getting in some good snaps here at training camp. There's also been a positive sign for a top Niners draft pick, with Nick Bosa missing practice time here and there just because of rest days. Drake Jackson has been getting a lot of first-team reps, and in doing so, he's been excelling. To the running back competition, is Trey Sermon back from the dead? Trey Sermon and Jordan Mason, the undrafted free agent out of Georgia Tech, turning heads, impressing. So too is Ty Davis-Price and Elijah Mitchell. Looks as though Kyle Shanahan might have a stable of running backs who he can go with. But let's first focus in here and only focus in on Trey Sermon and Jordan Mason. Kyle Shanahan said a couple of interesting things about both players. If you didn't know any better, Shanahan said, you would think that Trey Sermon and Jordan Mason were the best running backs on the team. Whenever Jordan Mason touches the ball, it's like, whoa, it's going to be very hard to keep him off this roster. Trey Sermon looks better, bigger and more decisive. I'm looking forward to watching them in the preseason. As for Mason, extremely physical player, broke a tackle on an eye-popping 44% of his rushing attempts last year with Georgia Tech. That ranked him first in the nation last year. In addition to that, 4.4 yards per carry after contact. That was 8th best in the country. So Kyle Shanahan, by bringing in Jordan Mason, by drafting Trey Sermon and Ty Davis-Price, yes, Elijah Mitchell brings you that flash element, but Kyle Shanahan kind of liked some physical backs, and maybe that was all done to convince Deebo Samuel to come back on that contract extension and let him know he's not going to have to get beat up playing a little bit of running back. And obviously, for Trey Sermon, this is huge news. He was in the doghouse last year, barely played as a rookie. His roster status somewhat in question if he doesn't perform well, but looks as though he has. Javon Kinlaw practiced for the second day in a row. Him and Aaron Banks, some good reps going up against one another on the interior of the offensive and defensive line in one-on-one drills. And then lastly, yes, Trey Lance did struggle. Yesterday he was good. Today he struggled, completed 3 of 9 passes, misfired on a couple of deep balls. To be fair, he did throw a ball that was a beauty to Deebo Samuel. He dropped it. Would have been a fade route on Emmanuel Mosley, but Deebo Samuel couldn't bring it down. His other long balls off, though. But a positive sign for Lance. Even though he wasn't good up to that point in practice, he did finish the practice session strong where it really counts, on the money downs and in the red zone. did solid in red zone drills, found Brandon Aiyuk, and was able to navigate around the pocket to excel in red zone drills. So those are all of the biggest takeaways from today, from practice and all of the latest news and rumors going down with the San Francisco 49ers. Another reminder to subscribe. If you want to chop it up and talk Niners football, hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at Chase_Senior. And if you have any thoughts about San Francisco, get that comment section popping. I know the real ones will.